What's up, guys? This is Ameritrash telemarketer making another video. Today's video is about Goretex. Recently, a very popular YouTuber, Fortnine, he does motorcycle content, made a video about how Goretex is kind of a marketing scam type. He just kind of devalued Goretex. And you know, I think he got some things wrong, and so I wanted to make a video about what he missed about what Goretex is. So the first thing that he really focused on is that he thought that Goretex, or he thinks Goretex is a fabric. And although he's correct in the sense that it is a fabric, it's not just a material or a fabric, it's actually a manufacturing process. So what he said was, he was like, look, you know, this is basically Teflon, and that although Goretex was the first to market and patented it, that their patent has long run up for expanded polytetrafluorine. I think that's what it is. And so as a result of that patent being up, that the membrane is not protected. So other companies can make comparable products using the same material. And he's right in the sense that there's nothing to stop other companies from making that membrane. But what he's wrong about is that Goretex isn't just this membrane. Goretex is actually a manufacturing process and a quality control process. Now, to Goretex's fault, they have probably not done the best job in their marketing department letting people know this. So they focus, like when you look through like outdoor, you know, Outside magazine, or, you know, any of the outdoor magazines, or where they're doing their advertising, they're focusing on the waterproof, breathable aspects of the fabric. And so most people think, well, that's what Goretex is. But if you've worked in the outdoor clothing business, and I used to work for a company called Bomber Gear that made dry tops. And we'll get into that in a second. You know that Goretex isn't just like a fabric that you can just buy. Like, in order to use Goretex, you have to go through their process and use their machines. And then once you're done making your product, you have to submit it to Goretex for testing. And that's because Goretex wants control over the process, so that you know that when you buy a piece of WL Gore branded product, that you are buying a very high quality product. And so as other companies have tried to compete in the space, the things that they struggle with are the lamination process and the seam sealing process. So when I worked for Bomber Gear, we couldn't afford Goretex because we were a small company based in Colorado. And in order to do a production run of whitewater dry tops, and if you don't know what a dry top, what it is basically a Goretex jacket with gaskets on the neck and the wrists, and then it goes into your kayak and it makes a seal. So when you submerge underwater in your kayak, you actually stay dry. And also dry suits, which are the same thing. So these products are designed to be fully submerged in water and keep water out while at the same time breathing. Anyway, Bomber Gear could not afford Goretex, and I remember the owner at the time, he was a close friend of mine, was like, no, this material is just as good as Goretex, and, you know, yada yada yada. But in the end, some of the production that he did started to delaminate, and in order to protect his company and his brand, he had to warranty all these delaminations that were basically a result of Goretex knockoff not really mastering the lamination process. So it's not just a material, it's a method of manufacture that you're buying when you buy Goretex. And if you've used Goretex over the years, you know that counts for something. That when you're buying a piece of you know, whether it's Goretex Windstopper, which is now called Infinium, or you know, a Goretex Pro Shell, that you can trust that that product is going to not delaminate and the seam tape is not going to come off. And if any of that starts to happen, that you can get it warranted, and they stand behind this. So another firsthand example of the value of Goretex is, you know, I just warranted a pair of snowmobile pants that I used for skiing through them, and the membrane had broken down around the crotch. because I'm a telemark skier and I do, you know, lunges all day long, and over the years it had broken down. But Gore-Tex policy is that if the face material is still in good shape, and same thing with the backing material, because the way 3-layer membranes are made is you have the face material, you have the membrane, and then you have the backing material. If that's all in good shape and the membrane starts to break down, well, Gore-Tex is gonna replace that product. So I went to Climb, which is the company who made these snowmobile pants, and I tried to warranty them through them, and they turned me down. I went directly to Gore-Tex and said, look, you see, the membrane has broken down around my crotch area and it's letting wind in and water in. And they turned around and they actually just PayPal'd me the money to buy a new pair of pants. So people don't know that, and I don't think we should abuse that about Gore-Tex, but that's how much they care about their products, so that they want you to have faith that that membrane that you're buying is going to last a lifetime. And what that means nowadays, I don't think it means 100 years. I mean, it means, you know, 10, 20 years of hard use. And they stand behind that. And no other company that's competing with Gore-Tex will do that. So yeah, it does cost a lot more money, but when you consider that you're buying a production and quality control process on a 3-layer membrane, you know, fabric, then it's, in my opinion, worth it. And the other thing that Fortnine kind of got wrong about Gore-Tex and what it is he did this demonstration where he like went out in the rain and was like, look, you know, when the fabric is saturated, when the DWR wears off, which you can renew the DWR, and you should periodically renew your DWR, but when that wears off, that the fabric can't breathe. Now I've seen some tests, and I'll try to throw in a link or just edit something in to show you what this looks like, where they actually put Gore-Tex membrane as a barrier between water and air, and show that it will actually pass air through it when, you know, up against water. But I don't really think that that's what it's about. Like, yes, it may do that, but what it's really about is it's a waterproof fabric that is better than PVC, because let's compare this to where Gore-Tex came from. Is back in the day, people wore PVC, and if you've ever worn a PVC rain suit, you know it doesn't breathe at all. So, you know, you might wear some cotton layers underneath it, but then you're going to have to come in and change layers, because if you're working in it, it's not breathing at all. But when you're comparing Gore-Tex breathability, you can't compare it to a soft shell, you know, or something without a membrane, because it's blocking water. But compared to PVC and compared to like a garbage bag, it does breathe amazingly well. And so what you're really using it is as a shell for when you're experiencing precipitation, or in Fortnine's use case, I would say high winds, that's going to block precipitation and high winds, while at the same time breathing better than, you know, either PVC or silicone impregnated nylon, or some of the other waterproof you know, options that are actually going to be able to block water. The other thing is that when you have Gore-Tex, the more wind that you get on it, so like in motorcycling, I would think he would really like this, is it's gonna do a better job breathing. So for instance, like, you know, this summer I was doing Long's Peak and I was hiking through the rain. I was wearing Gore-Tex pants, and you know, I started to sweat, and obviously I was getting sweat underneath the Gore-Tex because I was hiking uphill. And when the rain stopped, I started drying out underneath the Gore-Tex. So it does breathe, it just doesn't breathe like, you know, as well as a soft shell. And so what you're seeing is, I think in the outdoor industry, you're seeing some companies get away from using Gore-Tex because things have gotten more and more expensive. I mean, if you look at the Arc'teryx Alpha SV, which is like, you know, that was like one of the original Gore-Tex jackets that like really demonstrated what this can do. I mean, a new jacket, you know, is $900 now. So it's really expensive to use. I mean, minimum for Gore-Tex now, if you're looking at, you know, 400 plus for a jacket. And so when you're looking at that and you're like, well, man, if I spend $1,000, you know, I could buy this other product for 500. Why don't I buy the other product? And what I could say is that I know Gore-Tex, I don't know these other products. And over the years, we've had a lot of products come and go that have claimed to be just as good as Gore-Tex, but they haven't held up over time to be as durable. So yeah, they might work great for a couple seasons, but as they wear, they're not gonna wear as well. Now I can't say this for every product. Hopefully some new product comes along and kicks Gore-Tex ass, because I'm not a Gore-Tex fanboy in the sense of I just want to support their company, but I think that they have a good product, and that we shouldn't undermine what they've built over the years in their brand just because you can get another 3-layer membrane for less money. And the other thing in Fortnine's use case I thought was interesting, because I come from whitewater kayaking and skiing, and so in my use case, I really love Gore-Tex, but I also use a thinner 3-layer membrane. When you look at a lot of these like motorcycle jackets, or even my climb snowmobile bibs, they have a lining material, so you can't necessarily see what the Gore-Tex membrane is. And so that's where a case where like using a 2-layer Gore-Tex membrane, or, you know, it really doesn't matter as much, because the face material on these motorcycle jackets is like so robust that it's really easy to like not see really the technology that's in the actual Gore-Tex membrane. Whereas if you look at like an ice climbing jacket where it's just the thin Gore-Tex membrane, you can really see that this fabric is very durable, breathable, waterproof fabric that will last. You know, I work as a guide, and I'm hard use. I ski 80 to 100 days a year and ice climb. And, you know, I get about 10 years out of a Gore-Tex shell before it starts to, you know, where I feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of it, which says a lot. If you're looking at, you know, that roughly maybe 1,000 days of hard use. And, you know, usually with my Gore-Tex jackets, what happens is the zippers fail. And that's not Gore-Tex's fault, that's YKK. But then I just send them back, and YKK warranties the zippers, and you get a new zipper. So, I mean, Fortnine makes great videos. I really, I like what he does. I don't think Fortnine was aware of this aspects of what Gore-Tex is. I mean, of these aspects. I think Fortnine was looking at it from like, well, you know, if I can buy this fabric is, you know, this membrane is the same as this membrane, so why would I spend extra money? And then he kind of attacked Gore-Tex for the same reason why I'm saying they're a good company, by saying, well, they have to use their machines and they have to control the process. Well, that's exactly what makes Gore-Tex valuable. It's just that Gore-Tex hasn't done a good job of communicating that to the public. So Goretex, if you're listening, I would love it if you sponsored my channel, because I need better cameras so I can compete with Fortnine. And also, I think you should tell your marketing team that you should probably invest a little bit into the marketing of the quality control process, and so reach out to your customers so that they know that they're not just buying a fabric, they're buying a manufacturing process that you guys control and that you guys stand behind and you guys vouch for. If people don't know that, then you've kind of lost sight of what made your company the amazing company it is today. So maybe focus a little bit less on like, this year's Gore-Tex breathes 20% better than last year's Gore-Tex, because ultimately it's still Gore-Tex, so it's still not gonna breathe as good as like a cotton shirt, you know, but maybe focus more on the fact that you guys have built your company based on this manufacturing process and quality control. I only know this because I worked in the outdoor industry. And I know how expensive it is to do a production run of Gore-Tex anything, whether it be a dry suit or a dry top, or an ice climbing jacket. Again, Gore-Tex with their marketing team, they don't always do a good job. Like I'm wearing this, this is a Gore-Tex Infinium, so this is Windstopper, but they rebranded Windstopper and called it Infinium, but then people don't really know what it is. So like I'm like, what is Gore-Tex Infinium? And then people in the industry are like, oh, it's Windstopper. But you know, like this is a great piece, and the material, the outer material is really durable, well made, windproof membrane that stands up to water really well. I don't know the difference between Gore-Tex Infinium and the actual Gore-Tex membrane. Part of me thinks it's the same membrane, but it's just not as certified because like for certain things like down coats or wind shirts, you don't need to do the same seam taping process. So I'm not really sure what the difference is there, but probably somebody at Gore-Tex, if you're listening, should listen to this and talk to the marketing team and maybe start a new marketing campaign that addresses some of this confusion from your end consumers. And as far as Fortnine goes, I'm certainly not trying to pick a fight or undermine your video production is amazing. And I think given the fact that maybe you don't work in the outdoor industry, you may not be as familiar with you know, the value of not just the fabric you're buying, but the manufacturing process in terms of the seam taping and the sewing and the quality control. That when you buy a Gore-Tex product, when you see that tag, that's what you're paying for, not just a membrane. So yeah, that's my video, you guys. It's getting on to ski season. I'm stoked, and have a great day and enjoy your turns.